Leon Wagner. I mean, we never had any pretense of being a contending team back then. I mean, in '59, when I hadn't quite turned 7 yet, I was just starting to listen and pay attention to baseball with my dad. They finished second to the White Sox, and then that was the year '59, the start of what Terry Pluto calls a 35-year slump.
Was it 91? I remember being in this Cole was what we thought Kenny Lofton was going to be. I was there. I believe they were playing the Yankees. Before I even Google search it, and then I'll look it up here and see if I'm right. But I believe they were playing the Yankees. Alex Cole, yeah, he was.
Alex Cole, even before that, the other one was Miguel De La Ney. If you want to go back even a little bit further to the guy that was. Pre-Kenny Lofton, they led the league.
See, I don't even remember him.
60 steals or so, but he was the leadoff guy that was going to steal. Turned out he couldn't steal first base, but
see, I don't remember him, but I was there the night that I almost called him Kenny Lofton. I was there the night that Alex Cole set the record. Was it 5 or 7 bases that he stole in one game? I was there. Me and 4,000 other people were there that day. And I just thought it was so cool that I had a whole section to myself. I was like, hey, this is awesome, man. That was the day my dad taught me how to score a game. Like, I remember nobody does that nowadays. Sits you down and teaches you how to put the X's and what the numbers are. And I'm proud of the fact that right now I could hand score a baseball game if I needed to. I'm guaranteeing you that's a lost art in today's world.
Oh, no doubt. I used to do it too. And occasionally over at Progressive Field, you'll see somebody scoring the game. But you're right. It is a lost art. My dad taught me how to do it too.
Nobody does it. I mean, you don't need to, really, because now if you want to know the box score, you just flip open your phone and you go, oh, there's the box score already updated for me and everything. But, yeah, I just remember when you're a kid, you go, well, why is it number 1? Why is he number 2? You know what I mean? Trying to figure out why we score things the way they do. And then, anyways, I look at my son now. He looks at me like I've got a third eye. He's like, what do you mean? Score the game.
What do you mean it's 6-4-3?
What? 6-4-3? What is that? I'm not calling it another state. I live in 216. That's what I get. So, anyways, man. But all of that to circle back around. Indians finished their trade with Oakland. Joey Wendell sent out. Brandon Moss coming in to be a part of the lineup here for the Indians, and we'll see what comes next with them. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rock, Dan Wismar here, and let's go to the other half of the playoff conversation because these guys are there. They got there. Man, let's talk about the Buckeyes. Dan, last week we talked about, okay, let's pretend nobody loses. Everybody wins the game that they're playing this weekend. Buckeyes probably on the outside looking in. Even if they dominate, how much can they possibly make up ground? They found 59 ways to make up enough ground this weekend. They absolutely just destroyed Wisconsin. They literally beat them so bad that they could not be denied. Cardell Jones made you look like Karnak. He went out there with that arm that you told everybody about last week, and he was just whipping that ball around like he's been playing since day one, and they left no doubt that they're one of the 4 best teams. I don't know how anybody can even argue that.
Well, lots of guys.
I know they do.
Down Texas way, Skip Bayless is just beside himself this morning.
Well, he's an idiot.
I saw his column, and yeah, he's always beside himself because no one else wants to sit next to him. But anyway, the Buckeyes. First of all, Jerry, I could not believe all week long. I could not believe that the Buckeyes were underdogs in this game. The thing opened at 3.5 points, and it all had to do with the quarterback situation. Everybody knows that, but it was ridiculous for the Buckeyes, who haven't lost a Big Ten regular season game in 3 years, to go onto a neutral field against another Big Ten team and be an underdog. It was just absurd. It was stupid, and that really makes me the interests that do that sort of thing. Because it was just so obvious, and it was so obvious how hungry Urban Meyer was, how hungry the Buckeyes were, how jacked up emotionally the Buckeyes were over Costa George, over everything, over having been denied last year, having their dream derailed last year by Michigan State in the same game on the same field. they were just not going to be denied. I kind of felt that all week. I obviously wasn't predicting a 8 touchdown win, let alone a shutout or anything. But I thought that the Buckeyes would win. I thought they might win easily, but couldn't have predicted that. And people are saying, and we thought last week, we looked at it. I think the committee made a mistake, Jerry, by putting TCU in there at number 3. They shouldn't have vaulted them over Florida State, the undefeated Florida State team. It would be different if Florida State wasn't the defending national champ with the returning Heisman Trophy winner or whatever. But I thought when they put TCU at number 3, I assumed they were telling TCU win and you're in. Just like Alabama and Oregon were virtually guaranteed to be in if they won.
I think they were.
I thought TCU was sent the same message, and they go out and win 55-3 over, admittedly, a terrible 2-win Iowa State team, but still they had to feel pretty secure about themselves until 8-17 on Saturday night when the Buckeyes started putting the whooping on Wisconsin. They're ticked off, and maybe rightfully so, that they shouldn't have been dropped from 3 to 5 after a 55-3 victory. So you can certainly hear their case and say well, okay, but it's pretty much a consensus now that the Big 12 was hurt by the fact that they don't have a conference championship game, and rather than create controversy on either side, no matter whom they picked, Baylor or TCU, they just picked neither of them, and the Buckeyes made it easy for them by just having a dominating performance. And you're right, Cardale just came out and ran Urban Meyer's offense. Now they haven't run that many deep balls to Devin Smith very often this season, and Devin Smith, to his credit, I mean, those weren't the first one was a perfectly thrown ball. The other two, Devin Smith made great plays to come back to the ball or make an adjustment and grab the ball. The third one was spectacular down there in the corner. But I was hoping they would ride Ezekiel Elliott. They did to the tune of 20 carries. I was a little bit surprised, Jerry, that they didn't run Cardale more. Now, there's obviously a reason for that. They wanted to keep him upright and make sure that he didn't get hurt. There were only a couple of designed runs for Cardale, and neither of them went very far. I think he ended up with single digits in rushing yards. And it was, the thing that struck me most about the game was how the defensive line of the Buckeyes. And I'm talking about Mike Bennett wearing Costa's number, and Joey Bosa, and Adolphus Washington, and even the other guy on the other end, the combination of Rashad Frazier and Steve Miller. Those guys chewed up and spit out that Wisconsin offensive line that was supposed to be so great. I hope that this maybe puts a little, break on the constant talk we hear about how wonderful the Wisconsin offensive line is. He's got beat up physically and just beat one way or the other all night long by Ben. That was impressive. That was extremely impressive.
Across the board. I mean, you held his long for the day was 13 yards. I mean, just absolute and that adds into it. You didn't just beat a top 13 team. You didn't just beat a top 5 defense. You also beat a team that featured a very prominent superstar, not just level player, but caliber talent as well. So you add that aspect of shutting down a very dynamic talent and on a neutral field and being a complete whitewash. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is where, I'll tell you what, you can say what you want about the first year or two of the playoff, but this is going to make college football so much better in a few years because you schedule years in advance, and I get that. So you didn't know, as I said at the beginning, that Iowa State, whatever. Not that you anticipated them being a national powerhouse either, but lesson learned this weekend for every college program out there. You don't schedule bums in the last week of the season when everybody else, I mean, just like you said, you can go out there and win 55, whatever your score is, drop it on them, but you dropped it on a bag of potatoes, and you leave that door open.
Yeah, you're right. And also the complaining coming out of Texas today is that, Ohio State is a legacy program, a core program. I can't remember all the adjectives they're putting on it, but
and they said that they don't have a Big 12 voice in the committee, and there's not a Big 12 voice to balance things out there.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I say forget all of that, Dan.
I heard one writer today, I think it was Albert Greer, one of the national writers, said this morning, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me that the committee has that college football doesn't have enough voices supporting Southern football, that there's an anti-South bias in college football today? You got to be kidding me. So, that was a little bit silly to say that the South doesn't have a voice enough in college football. It's ridiculous.
And forget the teams, Dan. Go to the other thing that I said at the beginning, which is take any team in this country, and I don't know enough about the depth charts to go 3 deep on most of these squads at the quarterback position, but I think that is a X factor in this that people aren't putting into the equation. Is I think Ohio State is at least right there in this argument with all things being equal and Braxton Miller starting the whole season. You throw in quarterbacks 2 and 3, and especially with the third one coming in the final week when you're all chips are in, and you've got to go with whatever you're dealt. This is the hand we've been dealt. I don't know how many teams could have done what the Buckeyes did with their backup quarterback, let alone then getting to the third string guy and dominating again. That's what puts it out of reach for me when you look at everything being equal.
Yeah, you're right. And guys were tweeting the other night, hey, our third string quarterback is better than yours. I think we can fairly say that. But the other thing, the biggest thing, I think, for the committee, how could you resist the appeal once it became clear, once it was 38-0 at halftime, and I started saying, right then, bring on Bama, because the appeal of Ohio State, Alabama, someone said that nobody outside of the state of Ohio was interested in an Ohio State-Alabama matchup. Are you kidding me? No one outside the state of Ohio was interested in a matchup between Nick Saban and Urban Meyer. No one in outside the state of Ohio was interested in 2 of the most storied programs in the history of college football matching up on New Year's Day. Come on. It was irresistible to the committee. Even if they had won, 32-0 instead of 59, I think we'd still see OSU Alabama because it's the game people want to see.
And I think the whole 4, you could say that way, because I think you've got 2 great first matchups. Like you said, I don't agree at all with who would be interested. Everybody, Alabama and Ohio State is a very intriguing matchup there of a lot of different parts of the game. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. But on the other side, and we can say this about both the game with Florida State and Oregon, but the Florida State question, because for all the talk about TCU and Baylor and Ohio State, they're undefeated, so they have to be there. But there's so many question marks about the Seminoles and how half a dozen times they barely escaped against lesser teams. Okay, that's great. Well, there's no lesser teams left, so we will find out, put up or shut up. Are the Buckeyes as good as they think they are? Is Florida State truly an undefeated team? Like, I like the challenges of the 2 first-round matches, because Florida State, for them to advance, they would have to beat Oregon. Good luck there. Let's see you keep up. And that'll be a great offensive game. And then you've got kind of the opposite. You've got Alabama and Ohio State, and some defenses are going to be snarling at each other, and some offense. It's going to be good football. And then to go one further, this is the fun part of it, Dan, is when you get past the committees and the polls and all of that, and you've actually got a 4-team playoff. Now, it's easy for us to be happy because the Buckeyes are in it, but you get 2 matchups, and then those 2 winners will play each other. You do, man, it's going to be, if you're a football guy and a college guy, that's a hell of a lot of fun, man. And then you'll answer a lot of questions. You're going to get 3 great games out of those 4 teams.
Yeah, you're right. It really does, put a charge into things college football wise. I mean, things were sort of, dwindling down a little bit, maybe a little bit anticlimactic coming down the stretch of the last couple of games, but now you've got the matchups, and now it's just like a surge of energy and into, pretty much everybody that covers the sport, the beat writers for the teams, they are all charged up. Just reading some of the stuff by the Ohio State beat writers over the last couple of days has been, you can tell that these guys are just, they're making reservations for New Orleans. These guys couldn't be any happier.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole thing just supercharges the energy around the sport.